All right, guys, my guest today is Robert Wagner. He is a real estate agent with Century 21 Judge Fight, published author of multiple books. He goes on stage, does presentations on how to speak to agents or how to grow your business as an agent, mind me.
Yes.
And you've been doing it for quite a while, and you've had a rapid success here recently,
Yes.
at least that I've seen.
Yeah.
You've been using us for a few years, and it just kind of started ramping up here in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
And your exposure has ramped up big time, too.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
They're probably correlated, aren't they?
Yeah, they definitely kind of go hand in hand for sure.
Well, tell me, obviously, real estate agent.
Yes.
Give me a real quick on that, and then I want to jump into the books and how you got so popular.
Yeah, I been in real estate now just over 4 years. So started during the pandemic, something that I wanted to do previously. Didn't really. I will say, looking back, I can see the kind of the genesis to the real estate thing. I was golfing with a buddy, and he was a real estate agent. Had no idea he was a real estate agent. He was talking about a house that was on the market, and then it led into us talking about selling my house. And quite honestly, the purchase of our property way back in 2012, my wife and I's first house, we felt like we were the young kids that didn't have any money, didn't have anything to say. Even though it was a buyer's market back then, we had concerns, we had things that we wanted to negotiate. The agent didn't do anything for us that we thought. And then fast forwarding that to 6 years later, selling the house and buying a new house, I felt like I did a lot of the work. And so, everything from finding the property, it was a new build construction, what we wanted as far as the negotiations and all that. So it was something that I felt like I wanted to get into real estate so then I can, one, advocate for people in a way that I didn't feel advocated for. And then two, I was in management at that time, in corporate training, a trainer in management, and so I lost or was stepping out of that people sales thing, more so teaching how to do sales, teaching leadership and all that. I want to get back into some of that person contact. So real estate agent
You prefer that over management?
Yeah.
You missed it.
I missed it
Yeah.
because I love leading people, and no matter what in life, people tend to find me to follow. It's just kind of one of the things that I'm a natural leader, I will assume, since I was a kid. But I missed that person-to-person contact and sales, but I still lead. So yeah, I definitely missed the touch point of people versus just teaching the strategies and teaching the theory and all that, now getting and doing it. So
I feel like you've created a good blend of that, though. So I go to your office. We advertise in your office.
Yeah.
You started using us. You and I just clicked. We liked each other.
Yes.
It worked out, right?
Yes.
But you're talking about being a leader and working with people on the sales side.
Right.
I feel like you've blended that a little bit, especially here recently, because I went to a vendor appreciation lunch, as it were, for Century 21, and you were one of the key speakers there, talking
Yes.
about AI. And then I've seen you all over social media coaching real estate agents
Yes.
and teachings in your books and things. So you're still leading,
Yes.
but you also get the sales side of negotiating a deal for your clients.
Yeah, no matter what, I can't get away from kind of the core of who I am as an individual, which is I'm an open book. I love to share. I love to help people grow. I want people to grow. And there are some things that I do that, is premium value, but I just really enjoy, and that's since I was a kid. Like if I learned something, you can ask anybody, I would go share it immediately to everybody else. Like, hey, I just learned this,
Right.
so because it's like, I felt like if I'm a Dead Sea, water comes to me, it stays there, it doesn't get out, it dies everything around. But if I'm a river, then life happens and I have capacity to get more stuff. So I've always been the kind of person that if I learn it, I want to give it as quick as possible so I can get new stuff. And then on every side of that river brings life. And so that's kind of been the key of my life. And
How do
so
you keep yourself centered? Because I do the same. I want to grab a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track sometimes.
It's all about staying true to purpose for me. Like what is my purpose? What is the thing that I want to do?
What is your purpose?
My purpose is glorify God with everything that I do. That's the core of who I am. So that's in fitness, finances, relationships, marriage, real estate, clients.
That's your core.
That's my core. And so that's like why I exist, right? And then I know that I have been called to bring life to dead places. Like that's kind of, since I was a kid, my name Robert means shining with fame. So I knew that as a kid, wherever I went, it was going to bring life, there was going to be joy, there was going to be some type of growth. And so that's anything that is centered around that is kind of the epicenter and core. And I can really understand that if it doesn't line up to that, I'm out, right? Kind of in the words of Mark Cuban, I'm out. I know that. So it's easy for me to say no to things that doesn't align with who I am and where I'm trying to go. And I think that a lot of times that people don't really have a true sense of who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, and what their purpose is. And so they just grab on everything versus saying, this is who I am, this is the where I'm trying to go. And if it doesn't align with that, it's great. I understand. And it's kind of like the power of the positive no. That's amazing. That's wonderful. It's just not for me at this time in my life. But I would love to share with somebody else. And if I hear someone that has that need, I'm doing this.
I've noticed that myself, not just in real estate. I mean, we talk about real estate on this podcast a lot,
Right.
but I've noticed that in anything, if for you, God, for someone else, it might be recycling, saving the earth, or whatever the
Right.
passion is. If they have a true passion and a line towards it,
Yeah.
they get there.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, the ones that are lost, they don't get there. There's always something that distracts them.
Right.
The next big thing.
Yeah. True.
And they never end it. They just go bouncing around like a ping pong.
Yeah.
Or what are those machines with the
Pinball. Yes,
pinball
yeah.
machine. Yeah, that's what they do.
And truthfully, a lot of times we also see other people in success and we like, okay, they're doing all this stuff.
I'm gonna go do what they're doing.
And it's like, but they didn't get there doing all that. They got there being very much so focused. And it's like, I've used the analogy for many, many years, like light can light up an entire room, but when you focus that light, it can now be a laser and cut through some bricks and rocks and everything else. So I want to not just be successful, I want to be effective. Like a dynamite can, you can light a dynamite and just throw it out to a field. It'll blow up. That was success, but it wasn't effective.
Right.
It wasn't doing what it was created to do, which is to blow up a building or blow up a mountain or whatever. So that's kind of the for me is like just be hyper intentional, hyper focused. And as I grow and get to where I'm trying to get to, I can then start some other stuff, right? I can then add on what I need to add on, but let's be focused in what we're trying to accomplish right now.
Accomplishing in this industry is difficult.
Very much so.
I don't know if you're aware of that, but
Yeah,
there's a high
yes.
failure rate,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you know what the highest rate of success for a new business startup, what the genre of business is?
What is the highest rate?
Laundromats.
Wow.
Laundromats have a 95 plus success rate.
Okay.
Real estate agents have like a 17 or 18%
Facts.
success rate.
Yes.
Right? And we all know that.
Yes.
So I always say anyone that's made it past the 18-month mark, they're doing something right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can kind of flop around and sustain themselves for about 18 months, but then money starts running out, relatives are kicking you out of the house, like you got to start making some money.
It's tough, yeah.
Yeah, and then they end up, finding something else, selling insurance, being a barista, whatever they got to do to make it work.
Yeah.
But to get past that 18-month mark is challenging. But for you, you're 4 years in it, and you've just, especially like I said here recently, things have really started ramping up for you. What do you think you contribute, one, getting past 18 months, and two, the snowball effect that you've been experiencing?
I think one, I knew that when I got into real estate, it was in the middle of the pandemic. It was July 1st, 2020, my first, and I came into real estate with several deals. July 1st, I was at a July 4th event. Someone was saying they need to sell the house. Hey, what?
Yeah.
But the thing that I've learned in life, again, is that sales training background. It's taking everything that I've learned and trying to look at life and say, okay, how can I apply even my left turns into what I'm doing right now? So one of the biggest things I would say is biggest area of success was I had another job. I was a corporate trainer, but I was very intentional about prospecting and working in the time I had to work. So I would work my full-time job, and at certain time of the day, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, I was very intentional about doing the necessary things to do my business. So I think that a lot of times that we as agents, we don't prioritize, and we're not hyper intentional. Now I've even got it more intentional where I have power zones. And so even in a given day, I have these 4 zones, which are called power zones, 12 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 6, and 6 to 12. And I'm very intentional about 2 power zones in particular, where from 6 to 12 is my time I'm doing my prospecting, the things I don't want to do, whatever it is I don't want to do, I do at that time. Then networking, fun stuff, meetings, and all of that is in the second zone. The last zone is when I spend time with my family, right?
Yeah.
I'm very intentional about that stuff. I think that the biggest issue that most agents find themselves in is that we want all the glory without all the work. I just had a chance to go see Simone Biles at the Gold Over America tour the other day, and there was this one part was like, "Dear gymnastics, you're good to me," and I was just like, I sat there and I was just like in awe and almost emotional because I saw like the Simone Biles, the Jordans, the Jades of the world, Paris Olympics, but then they was like showing all these clips of them in the gym doing all this work, in these backwood gyms competing, and there's like all this stuff they was doing. But then now we see the glory of but we didn't see all that hard work. Most of us want to we want the easy stuff, but we don't want the hard work. What has separated me and my success is, number one, I understand where success lies. Number two, I also do the necessary thing over and over again. And what I found is planting those seeds and watering those seeds and nurturing those seeds. It may not feel like anything is happening, but under that ground, some stuff is taking place, and eventually you'll start seeing it sprout up. And that's what happened to me. It was like, my first 18 months wasn't great, but I did all the necessary things, and before I knew it, started sprouting up.
Stretching that
and
slingshot.
Then what happens is you start compounding that interest. It's like, compound interest doesn't really make a difference when it's like 1 cent, 2 cents, 4 cents, 8 cents. But when it gets to that $1 and $2, and it's like $2 to $4 to $8 to $16, then you're like, whoa, this is looking good. And that's where my success came in. I worked hard when it wasn't paying off, and now it's paying off, and I'm still working hard to create more business. So that was the biggest thing for me in that first 18 months, and what I see a lot of agents don't do. They don't do the necessary things. Like, I'm in the office almost every day making phone calls, and I'm the top producer in our office. I don't see a lot of other agents in the office doing that same stuff. And it's like, if I'm the top producer doing that, and you're not, like, why aren't you doing what I'm doing if you know that it's breeding these results?
Well, there's got to be a top producer, right? I mean, someone's got to do it.
Yeah,
and there's got to be a bunch of people that don't do it, so you can be a top producer.
True. And I enjoy it's like I want other folks, because I think that creates that necessary competition as well, and motivation. I don't want to be the only one at the top of the mountain. I want, hey, we all can get there. And I've always said, like, there's room for all of us in this business because your clientele is not my clientele. Like I don't speak your language, I don't look like you, whatever, but you're missing out on doing something for your people and your sphere of influence if you're not, doing the necessary things and checking out. So,
completely agreed. Yeah. I love when I have friends that are highly successful, that are around me. Everyone,
right.
There's a classic saying, you'll be the average of the 5 people, your 5
absolutely.
biggest influencers.
Yeah.
You'd be somewhere in that mix, but if you're towards the top, and you got all these other people that are always asking you questions, you're probably going to stay up there until you get around some people that make you think in a way that I never thought it could be this big.
True.
Just I've been thinking the wrong way.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you start pulling yourself higher and higher with them.
Yeah, and I think I said that in the AI thing, is that my greatest superpower is my curiosity.
Yeah.
I'm always learning. The reason I go to conferences, like I was just laughing at my wife the other day. I was like, look at all these badges of all the conferences I've gone to in the last 4 years. Like, I have like 12 designations, certifications, conferences. I go to classes. I'm like, there's a reason for that. The reason is I don't know it all. I'm trying to find that one or two nuggets every single time that I can implement that can make my business go leaps and bounds different than what it was at first. And I think that that's the biggest area of I think that where most folks lack is that insane curiosity to continue to grow. I want to pick the brains of the Kurt's and the Sarahs of the world, like the top agents. I want to know what you're doing, what's making you different, how did you get to where you gotten, because I don't know it all. And I think that at the very beginning, I have this natural kind of way of thinking, like I'm always tweaking something and doing something. But it's like, okay, before I do that, let's look at the foundation and the fundamentals. Let's do that and then build and add on your personality from there. And so that's kind of
one of the
back
things
to the basics.
you had mentioned something in that, and I always love going to those conferences because I always get one little nugget, one little something. And in your speech, I use ChatGPT all the time.
Yeah.
So I was very familiar with a lot of it. But some of the suggestions you had, I was like, I never thought about asking it that. Like going through a list of all the like as a vendor, going through a list of all the agents and saying, just find all their names, their phone numbers, and their emails, and give me a spreadsheet of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, I forgot you could ask it to
do
these menial tasks that I would otherwise be paying someone in the business $15, $20 an hour to go through and find it all.
Right.
And it does it in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you tweak it a little bit.
Right.
And then you take that and you go, okay, I'll put it in a CSV file and put it in our follow-up box and send out.
Easy. Yeah.
I save myself money, time, energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that one little thing, I took a picture of it, and then I sent it off to our growth team, and I was like, you need to be using this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And AI is definitely one of those things that I use on a routine basis, and I think that helps separate me as well, of where I've kind of gained some visibility as well with other agents and vendors and all that is, my leveraging of that. And when it first came out, I was spending time just learning and implementing things and thinking of things and like, okay, if I can think this, I'm sure it can do it. So let me think it and ask it, and it did it. It was like, okay. Then it started becoming like a quest of like, okay, what is the wildest thing I can think of and ask it, and it'll create for me. And now it's just like, I could take a picture of something, put it in and say like, create this or create me a recipe off of this. And all that is just beautiful stuff to do. Yeah.
I love playing around with it. So one of my buddies, he's Russian, and that's just messing with him.
Yeah.
I sent him, I started screen recording, and I dropped his picture into ChatGPT, and I said, make this guy look less Soviet. And it comes back with him. There's an American flag behind him, a barbecue grill on, and like a golden retriever in the background.
Easy. Just playing around.
Yeah, and it just the funny, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And then that was his introduction to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And now he's obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But it was just this funny, like, make this guy look less Soviet.
Right. Love it. Yeah. It's definitely changed the way, like I leverage it in a way to take away the menial and tasks that I don't need to focus on. Because again, like, it's like, the $1, $2, $10 task to $100 task. That's not what. Let me do the 10,000 to 5,000, whatever. But if I only have to pay anybody and wait on them to provide it back, I could just put it in here, create something, and then take it in and running with it. And so, as I said before, it's like it's not that it's going to replace agents. It's those who implement it. It's going to replace those who are not, because I can be that much more efficient with my time to focus now on prospecting and building my business when this is doing all that stuff that it's just minutia.
We're thinking about how it's going to affect our business because a lot of the inspector, it's somewhat of a subjective visual inspection.
True.
And so we're anticipating it's either like a body camera or glasses camera, but it's going to be seeing everything the inspector sees.
Right.
And writing like 50% of the report already based on deficiencies that the camera's seeing and analyzing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out how the somewhat, it's a talent, it's a skilled labor, and it's a career that takes a lot of training to get into. And is this going to eliminate a lot of that training for these guys? Are we suddenly going to have like 50 hours of training just to verify what it's finding is wrong, rather than teaching these guys how to find every nuance?
Yeah.
And so we're just playing around, seeing is it actually going to take out some of these jobs?
And there are, I think the biggest job that I think is hilarious is the computer industry, where it's like replacing in the next 5 to 10 years, and it's like these people who are creating this is going to end up replacing them, and so there's
So what are they going to do for work?
Right, and that's the question. It's like, I mean, for all those who have ethics issues and whatever, I find it to be like taking what we use and how we can leverage this to be that much more efficient and more effective in what we do. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is consistently find ways to be that much more effective and efficient. Whether it's using AI as my personal assistant at the gym, asking questions, allowing it to comment back to me, to give me affirmations before I go to an appointment, to tell it my schedule and say like, hey, what is the best use of my time to recreate this? Like using it in that capacity, or even if it's like using it to say like, hey, create me a marketing strategy. It's like I have a goal right now to end the year with a 7-family push.
Yeah.
So I put it to ChatGPT, like, here's my goal. This is what I'm trying to finish. This is what I have right now. This is my sales price and all that stuff. Create me a marketing strategy to focus on this with podcasts, blogs, emails, etc., that I could then send out and use. And then once I have all that, then I can put it into, a scheduler or something like that, and allow it to just post by itself without me even having to do this stuff every single day. Now I'm getting the content out, but not having to worry about using my time and resources to do that. It's doing that on that end while I'm doing the other stuff.
Well, you'll get all this footage. You can use this and just
Absolutely.
start putting out little sound bits and clips of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Can't wait to do it.
Yeah.
Look, I was like, genius.
Man, I tell so many agents, it's where I don't put this out to bring awareness to my channel. It doesn't do much for Element Inspections channel. People like seeing us do the inspections and me talking about how a house works, with the difference between an S-trap and a P-trap and these different plumbing names, and just explaining things.
Right.
It doesn't gain a lot of traction. But
Right.
see, take this, it's yours. Like you get to use this content, and you could get 10, 15 sound bites of you saying something like aha moment.
Right.
And just over the next few months, just post them.
Yeah.
And 2 out of 10 will ever do that.
Right. And what I love about Element is the game training that you guys provide is, number one, the training that you guys do and the visibility of the YouTube channels and Instagram and all that, because now it teaches us, like Emiliano is my guy. Like I use Emiliano for everything if he's available. Yeah. But even like I've learned so much in 4 years of being in real estate just by listening to Emiliano. I go back home and I'm like, okay, we didn't do, like I'm fixing stuff at the house now because I'm like, oh, I learned that from Emiliano, like Element Inspection. So I love that. And so then what this does to me is like, it gives you that much more value. Like I say, people talk to people all the time, like it's giving value to somebody else before you ask for something. Yes. You're giving value to realtors. And if you're not using that value, that's shame on you versus.
That's one reason it's a give back. Because I can't, people always say, the greatest thing you can do for me is give me a lead. And I go, listen, I would love to. Yeah. But in my follow-up boss, I have 3,700 real estate agents. Part. And if I give it to one, 3,699 is going to be upset with me for not getting, so I can't. I can't give an agent a lead because I don't have 3,700 leads to give out. Right? Otherwise, I'd be an agent.
Agreed.
So I got to figure out some other way to give back. Yeah. And this was part of it, because now you got mountains of content. We put it on Instagram. We put it on Facebook. If you want, you can have the whole raw file when it's done, and you can clip it up or cut it up yourself. Right. Put it on YouTube. Some agents take advantage of it, and I see it on their pages over and over. Right. I'm like, this is because it's professional cameras. Like it's a give back.
This is perfect. I mean,
it's a thank you in a way.
We tell agents to do that, like to give value to your clients before you ask for something. You're not even asking for the business, but you're giving it. So why not take that value and use that value? And so it just it's a great thing for you. And I think that many of the vendors that we have in our network can take that nugget and figure out ways to do the same thing, if not something different. Uniquely.
Yeah, it's classic. Take the client to lunch, but that gets old after a while.
Oh, I'm tired of the same food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me take you to lunch. Let me buy you a meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing we did a few times, because I want to get to the top production. Like I want the top producing agents to be using this, because we have acquisition cost and retention cost, right? It's a lot cheaper to keep someone than it is to gain someone. Yeah. Always. But I want to keep top producers, because the average agent uses us somewhere between 1.2 and 1.7 times per year. So if I spent $150 on lunch and they used me one time, I'm at a net even. I didn't make any money.
Right.
But if I can keep them,
Yeah.
and so one way I get to the top 10% or the top 20% of agents is I go into any office and I say to the manager and usually the guy or girl that sits up front and runs the vendor program typically.
Right.
Hey, I got 10 concert tickets. Find the top 6 or 7 agents in this office. This is a reward from Element Inspection.
Love it.
Through the manager and the ASM.
Right.
It's a gift from all of us to the top producers. Let's all, the 3 of us and 6 or 7 of the agents, let's all go to a concert.
Love it. Love it.
And then it's a reward from the manager to his top producers, which he has to keep.
Right.
And it's a way in for me to start talking to the top 7, 8 guys in the office.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and I've told so many vendors, I'm like, you can do that, and not a single one has ever done it.
Agreed.
And it might cost you $1,000 or $1,500, but it's targeted directly at the top.
It's extreme rewards, like you said, to that trying to get away from the acquisition to the retention costs.
Yeah.
And I was in HR for many, many years, and so I understand, the value of keeping.
Yes.
Like my old job, we was always talking about how can we keep these people versus having to go out and recruit people and train them up, and then they might leave anyway. Like finding ways, the simple ways to just keep them. And that's same with your clientele, your client base. It's like keeping your clients that you have by doing things on a routine basis, so you can keep those people and get new people from them shouting you from the rooftop. Like, hey, my agent is the best. They did this and they're doing this on a routine basis. I think that's one of the biggest things as well. So yeah, good stuff.
We calculated about a $92 acquisition cost per agent. And we were talking about numbers earlier.
Yeah.
On a inexpensive inspection, our cheaper ones, we don't even break even on that.
Wow.
We don't have enough profit to cover that. We have to acquire, retain, and get them to use the $700 and $800 inspections regularly if we're to turn a profit.
Right.
And so the retention is we got to get our acquisition costs down, but 2, you got to get that retention just always.
Yeah.
And agents too, they forget about that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Just call up some of your old clients without the like, hey, I'm going to sell you a house, or I want you to buy it. No. Just, how you doing? What's up?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest issues that most agents find themselves in is that either 1, they came from another career, or 2, they just don't have business acumen. Mm-hmm. And they think that this is a hobby, or this is something like a part-time job or a full-time job, and not really realizing this is a full-on business.
Yes.
And you should treat it as such. There's a sales side of it and there's a business side of it. And I think that's where a lot of folks miss out, which is where I try to provide value of trying to showcase ways to do things uniquely different. Because you don't get taught in real estate school of how to be you get taught how to not get sued.
Yeah.
How to pass a test. You don't get taught sales dynamics.
They don't teach you how to sell a house.
Absolutely. And then if you got into the real estate industry in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been easy to sell a house, especially in 2020.
Yeah.
2021, you put a house on the market, you do 1 or 2
days.
things, and and then what agents do is they say stuff like, house on the market 3 days, over asking price, multiple offers. It's like, but you didn't tell a story. Like, what did you do different? What separates me was, even in that season, I was always trying to find ways to tweak my marketing and expand my marketing, do things that was in such a way that even though I got multiple offers on a property, I was still perfecting skill set. So because I knew that at some point, it ain't gonna be this easy. So what can I do now to build the rhythm and the muscle memory of how to sell a house so that when it's difficult, I'm now doing the things that are important. Everything from my marketing strategy called the Promise Plan to Selling for Success book to how I reverse prospect to other agents. Like I cold call and do prospecting with new business, but I also do cold calling and prospecting for business I have right now. Trying to find agents that can bring a buyer to my house, right? So it's like learning all that stuff and just creating and taking time to work on and not just work in your business. And a lot of agents are working in their business a lot. The ones that's doing well, you have those who are not working at all. You have those who are working a lot in their business, and you have a very few that are taking time each week, each month to work on. What can I do to implement that's going to be a game changer, or to tweak this, or to be effective? And that's the beauty of AI for me as well, is that I can ask those questions like, okay, I'm doing this well. What can I do to take this to the next level to gain, even if it's a 5 to 10% increase of value? And so doing that routinely each week has been a game changer for me as well.
I created like a lockout system to make sure that I work on the business, not in the business.
Love it.
By not getting my Trek license. So I cannot go do a home inspection
Wow.
legally. I'm
Yeah.
not allowed to.
Right.
So that forces me when we get, because I know myself.
Yeah.
If I have 3 inspectors and we have demand for 4, I'm going to be the 4th.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get it done because we got to get it done.
Wow.
But if I'm not allowed to, now it forces me to go hire another one. And another one, and hire more people to support them.
Yeah.
Because I can't physically, I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my lockout where I can't work in it.
Yeah.
I have to work on it. And you just continuously, so I don't answer the phones anymore. I set a date, and I said, and this is with my coach, he goes, set a date
Yeah.
to fire yourself from answering the phone.
Love it.
And
Perfect.
you're not allowed to answer the phones ever again after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, who's going to answer the phones? You got to figure that
You
out.
gotta figure, yeah.
You better hire someone to answer the phone so that you're not distracted by
Yeah.
booking inspections.
Yeah.
So I did that, moved on, and now I set dates. Like I got to fire myself from this task, and I better have someone in place to take this over from me so that I can work on the bigger picture.
Yeah, because what you're doing is now you're able to leverage, and you can now continue to expand the business. And you're going to have the bumps and the bruises, and it's not going to be done exactly the way you would do it or whatever. But that's where the training, the coaching, the development comes in at, where you're giving them a time frame to get better. And now, before you know it, you 90 days later, you're like, they're doing it wonderful, and I can really focus over here. And that's I'm working towards that right now. So like even like for me, the next big step for me is creating a team.
Yes.
Leveraging team. There's things that I want to do and I find value. So I know that I can sell a house and all that, but let me train agents that's coming into the team, build that team to do that, and I can step into the development and training role to now, me versus by myself, I can do X, Y, Z. But if I have me and I have 2 who can be me, and I can train and develop them to do, we can improve upon, and then and then more and more and more. So that's my biggest next step, is creating a team so that I can step into more of a training, coaching, development role, because I know that I have the ability to teach you what I've been able to accomplish. I was dual career for 3.5 years. So like you had mentioned, like the success, right?
Yeah.
Starting in 2020, I was dual career. I was working hard 2021 and doing all the necessary things. And then towards the Q4, it was like all those seeds had just there pop and start blowing up. And then 2022, it was the same thing. And so I looked at my wife and we looked at each other. We was like, if we are able to do $100,000 plus as dual career, can you imagine what we can do if we did it full time? And so then having an exit plan, having an exit date for the corporate training job, making really good money. And it was like nerve-wracking because it's like no longer do you have that safety net.
You got to jump though.
You got to jump. And then now that became a hunger. Like there is no comfort. So the biggest thing for me was like trying to figure out ways to make myself uncomfortable in a very comfortable situation.
You got to do that.
I got 6-figure job. I'm comfortable, right? Okay, what can I do to make it uncomfortable? So it's always these games, these different things and all that. And so then it was September of last year. It was like, okay, we're going to just jump. Who would have thunk that the market would be what it would be in 2024?
Yeah.
The NAR settlements and all that stuff, all different changes.
Can't
and it's
plan
like,
for it.
I can't control that.
No.
I can only control my controllables. It's me showing up every single day, doing the necessary work. And here we are this year. My income has already doubled from last year. I'm on my way to hitting certain numbers that I had, planned. And just
because you took the jump.
Took the jump. And there's no safety net. I mean, obviously my safety net is God. Take the jump, for real. My safety net is always God, but it was a hunger in me that is like, I have no other choice. Like this, and I've always said this, like personality wise, I can take risks because if I fail, okay, it's a failure. Like, but it's only a failure if I didn't learn from what made me not succeed.
Yeah.
To me, it's like anything I do, and if I know how to get to where I got, I can always get back there. I can always go back to a corporate training job. I can but it's always that consistent drive to be better, to do better, and realize that there are other people who are looking at me, even if they say they're not, or even if they don't tell me they're looking at me. They're looking to see how well I do. So then again, I'm that trailblazer to bring other folks along the ride. Because for me, a lot of times it's those excuses like, there's not many black men that's in real estate killing it. There's not many black people that's going to sell and buy houses routinely. We buy a house, we're staying out for 40 years.
Excuse.
Like it's an excuse. Who cares? Yeah. I can be better than an excuse, and I can look to those individuals who are doing it and say, okay, they did it. Why can't I? If I did it, why can't you behind me do the same thing? And so that's kind of been the biggest thing for me is like always trying to find ways to be better, do better, and grow better. And one of my favorite guys lately this year has been Myron Golden. He talks about, the be, do, have. We're called human beings for a reason. You have to be something. Be who you are called to be. Then you do who you are, and you will have what you do. And you do a little, you will have a little. You do a lot, you will have a lot. And that's the key.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Just keep pushing.
And make the jump.
Take the jump.
Yeah.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
All right, Robert. We've been chatting for a long time.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming on.
Man, great time.
We're going to put all of Robert's information down in the description. We'll get some links to your books.
Yeah.
So anyone that's interested in, 7 books,
yeah.
We'll put those down in the description
Appreciate
below. And guys, give him a call. He's a wealth of knowledge. And if you need any real estate help or advice, Robert's here for you.
Indeed.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.